All right. So now that you are masters of finding the fake and not falling for it, we're going to talk about just sharing. And I find it interesting because sometimes we say, "Hey, would you tell that to a stranger?" You're like, "Absolutely not." And then there's certain things we're telling the whole world with our digital online presence.
Yeah, it's so important there that we think about our online presence because a lot of us, even like when we sign up for websites, right? Like Fortnite, or I know some of you might be on Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat. Like these are things that are on there that you've given permission for them to know where you are and who you are.
Mhm.
And everything we put online, and we've kind of talked about that, right? With kindness and passwords, everything you put online is there forever. And
John,
it tells a story of you.
there was a funny one on Facebook, and it was a quiz that told you, "Oh, we're going to find out what your royal name would be." So they asked you things like your first dog's name, the street you grew up on, the kind of car you drove. And these are often the questions you give a bank when you're signing in for your banking information. And that's how they were finding out people's passwords. They were finding out all this information about them with this online quiz that seemed like it was kind of fun, but it really wasn't. So
Yeah. You have to be so careful of what information you put out there, right? And even the pop-ups that come up, right? And they're like, hey, you want a prize? Put in your name and your addresses and your phone number and or tell us who you're, like where you live and when you come home. And it's like, oh, you got to be careful of the things that you put out there because you don't know who is on the other end of this.
mhm.
So this activity, boys and girls, are going to be talking about what we share, like how we share and care. So that we're going to look at this profile that's here on my screen right here about our friend Rob. And I want you to have a discussion with your classmates about what have you learned about Rob and who is Rob? And did he give away maybe a little too much information about who he is?
Yeah.
And then after you've done that, have a discussion about like what information would you share with strangers, with friends, or your parents?
And there are some subtle things that we don't always think about, like do you have location turned on your pictures if you're taking pictures on your phone? Or I know I use Strava, which is a running app, and people actually could find my address by looking at where I ran and seeing that, hey, he always starts at this place, so that's probably his house. So there's certain things you got to be aware of. So we're going to look at this information. What are we finding out about you, and what information are you giving people online?